present here, so we can have the interactive sessions and we can share our thoughts about the problems of the human trafficking. The human trafficking, when we discuss things about human trafficking, many ideas come to our mind. Many thoughts bombard our minds. What is a human trafficking? Why this problem is prevalent in India? What are the likely causes for these problems? What are the factors responsible for the human trafficking? And what is the existing legal provisions to take care of these problems? How this problem can be solved in India? All these thoughts come to our mind. If you have interest in history, in 11th century, the Alberuni visited India. And after that, in 14th century, Ibn Battuta also came here. Both of these travelers, they mentioned about the problems of the slaves system in India, where the human beings were purchased and sold like any other commodity. This slavery system is just like a component of human trafficking. And the human trafficking has many facets. The Article 370 of the IPC and the Immoral Trafficking Prevention Act 1956, they have described the human traffickings in very details. So basically, I'm not going for exact legal definition, but it has to be three components in it. First is action, second is transportation, and third is the purpose. So the Article 370 has mentioned 5 or 6 action points. You have to take a person either by fraudulent means or by deceit or by the forceful means, like that, 5 or 6 factors they have mentioned. Then the transportations of the trafficking victims, the center or harborers, the receptions, destinations, and then purpose. There are many purposes why the human being indulges in purchasing and the selling of the human being itself. So there are many purposes are given, like the commercially exploitations, commercially sexual exploitations, bonded labors, the beggings, the drug peddling, organ donations, even the domestic servant. So these are the few purposes. So as per investigations, if any of these purposes, one action, one transportation point, and one purpose, if IO can prove it in the court, then case can be convicted. But it is quite a challenging task, you know. Why it is a challenging? Because proving component, all these three parts of any components is not that easy. It requires a hell lot of efforts by the IO at his level, as well as the efforts by the supervisory officers. Then many acts are involved. The multiple of legal acts are involved. Those who are students of law, they may be aware that other than the IPC and Immoral Trafficking Prevention Act 1956, it also involved the Child Marriage Prevention Act. It also involved the Bonded Labor Prevention and Regulations Act. It also involved the Migrations of the Labour Prevention Act, Prevention and Regulations Act. So when the multiples of the acts are involved, then IO must be aware about the legal provisions of all these acts. So that is why the investigation is quite challenging in these cases. and the conviction rate is quite inadequate. In Meghalaya, if we go through for last 6-year data, 6-year data, and out of these 19 cases, only I think 3 or 4 cases were convicted successfully. So you can imagine the task is quite challenging and very difficult. Very difficult is as compared to the cases registered normal under the IPC Act. Very difficult for investigating officers. So that is why the government of India, the Supreme Court, the state governments, all of them, they have realized the gravity of the crime, and n number of provisions were laid down. The government of India, I think 5 or 6 years back, they have opened the Women's Safety Division in the Ministry of Home Affairs. This division was not there earlier. Only when the human trafficking cases were started showing increasing trend, then they have opened this division. And in the Women's Safety Division, under Women's Safety Divisions, there is the prevention of trafficking or the human trafficking cell they have opened, and the joint secretary level nodal officer was appointed to supervise the provisions of the trafficking act cases throughout India. I told team Rust, and we also coordinated, and the 1 or 2 girls were saved from the Myanmar side. So it means that not only the interstate gangs, but international gangs are also involved in it. Some Mizo girls were taken to Myanmar. After that, their names and everything was changed, and then young girls were taken to the Thailand and other countries. And in one such incident, one young girl from the Mizoram, she jumped from the 14th floor in Bangkok, and she immediately collapsed on the spot. And the parents were not able to take her dead body because the identity was different. Passport, photographs, and everything was different. Names were different. So it has international ramification in that way. Interstate gangs are very actively involved in it. So the purpose are very clear, but it is very difficult to establish these purpose in the court of law, because IOs, they are not equipped to go scientifically and pursue this case vigorously till the purpose is proved, till the action is proved, because victims are poor. We have to keep 2 things in mind. Then victims of trafficking are very poor economically, as well as they are the lower rung of the sections of the society.